The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed.
The Dark Tower film was frustratingly bad because Stephen King's Dark Tower franchise has the perfect ending for a film adaptation. The last book in the saga allows a writer to come into the world and reinterpret the story in their own unique way. The problem is that the Dark Tower film tries to execute on this premise but fails to take any risks in doing so, effectively betraying the original premise of the books, and not only that, it's safe to the point of being dull. There's very little darkness in the film, there's very little ambiguity, but ultimately it's just not interesting. This largely comes from the lack of trust extended to the audience, and it means that everything is explained immediately. We never have the opportunity to wonder if Roland is connected to the Arthurian myth, or how a child's mind could bring down the tower. Rather than interpreting this last idea as a thematic overture, the film opts for a literal interpretation of one of the book's most interesting and complex themes. After rewatching the film, I wondered if the existing content could be recut into something that works, or maybe with some extra context, something that's good. So I did that. Our version of the film is going to focus on Roland, not Jake. Roland is the central character of the books, and we should learn about Jake through Roland's eyes, not just because Roland is the main character, but because Roland's world is more interesting. We know New York, we've seen it before. And as the story progresses, we should learn about Jake's life through the way that these two characters interact. It's not just exposition, it's character building, it's relationship building. Because we're re-editing and not rewriting the whole thing, I did my best to use the existing footage, with varying degrees of success. At certain points, I'll try and interject or explain how the scene should have played out, but by and large, we're going to keep what's there. We follow Roland across the wasteland for 5 to 10 minutes in the opening of this film. We see him hunt, gather, cook, and survive, and this is where we start to learn that the world has moved on. We could even see some old-world machinery. And then one evening, innocuously, Roland spots Jake at his campfire. They have their confrontation, and it plays out the same as in the film. Roland suspects Jake is a plant by the man in black.
Man in black? You know him.
Stop, please.
He sent you. One of his tricks.
No,
Where is he hiding?
I don't know.
Where is he hiding?
I don't know, I swear.
And here we can see the two begin to travel together, growing more comfortable with each other. Roland can explain about his father's death and his quest for the tower. Crucially though, this isn't a revenge story like the film. This plot focuses more about Roland, a man on the path to the tower, and his willingness to sacrifice anything that stands in his way. But more importantly, we have to learn this from Roland as he speaks, telling stories of his past, and of his father, and of the man in black.
That was our final stand. I lost my father that day.
Was it about the tower?
Yes. I'll eat your rabbit.
Jake can talk about New York and what happened, and we can even intercut this with flashbacks of existing footage if we want to keep what's already there. Roland should find this all very dubious. As they discuss and Jake tells his story, Roland doesn't trust a lot of it. We want their relationship to be built on tension and some element of danger. And this Roland should be less trusting, more wary, and ready to sacrifice Jake should the need arise. Making these small changes in the opening and the way that the film is framed shifts the narrative tension subtly throughout the film, and I was shocked by how quickly I found myself becoming enwrapped in the story. When Roland has Jake's visions read, we're as suspicious of the outcome as Roland.
It's more than 6 months of travel.
But you can get me there faster than that.
One moment that went from dull minutia to an interesting, dynamic interaction is the scene on the bus where Roland is drinking a Coke and taking painkillers.
What is this?
Sugar. In the original cut of the film, this is a humorous throwaway. The references are seen in the book. In the new cut, it's oddly tense. Roland is so desperate to be healed, he consumes unknown medicine and doesn't really know what sugar is. And while we, the audience, know what coke and aspirin are, we're more invested in Roland and his concern for New York and this new alien world. We're also not 100% sure what Jake is giving him because we're still not sure if we should trust Jake. The rest of the film plays out much the same, but it's far more focused from this perspective. Instead of worrying about Jake's parents or the man in black, we're solely invested in Roland as he tries to navigate and interrogate the world. He doesn't know what he can trust, and he keeps the boy close so that if Jake does turn out to be a trick by Walter, Roland can deal with it. But given this new start, I couldn't resist changing the ending of the film. The shootout in the Dixie Pig is a nice nod to the books, though kind of a shallow throwaway. We're keeping it largely because it builds dramatic tension, only we're not cutting back to Jake throughout the fight. This is exclusively from Roland's perspective, because we're still not 100% sure if Jake is working with Walter, or is a psychic plant, or is something else entirely. Whatever the case, our focus is on the battle of wills between Roland and Walter. It's not about the end of the world, it's not about Jake's parents, it's about Roland bullying through any obstacles to reach his tower, Walter and Jake included. Then we reach the climactic battle between the two warriors. Roland's willingness to go on is for the tower, not for Jake, or for the Eld, or for revenge. So when Roland is downed by Walter and Jake starts to communicate in the final moments of the film, Roland prepares his mind for the final battle.
I do not shoot with my hand. He who shoots with his hand
has forgotten the face of his father.
Rather than firing two bullets as it currently is, and one bounces off the other and kills Walter, Roland raises his gun and fires it twice. The bullets clash in midair as before, one arcing for Walter. The other, however, slips over Walter's shoulder and kills Jake. The machine's cut off. In the confusion as the machine malfunctions and explosions occur, Roland can disarm Walter. And here, as the portal closes, Walter and Roland can have their final confrontation. Walter can demand to know what Roland's done, what he's willing to sacrifice for the tower, what damnation he's willing to wrought just for his quest for one single tower. This takes a risk because setting up a sequel would be hard. Roland isn't a hero or anti-hero in this, and he killed a child. He's just an addict on a mission. While the film would never be made like this, there's too many risks and killing a kid on screen is dicey, I think it would have created a more rounded, compelling story. Rearranging the opening of the film and sequencing of information does seem like a small change, but it cascades throughout the work, and the more I watched this recut, the more I felt engaged. And even if this altered version bombed in the box office, at least it would have taken a risk. Because the Dark Tower story and myth is all about risk. From genre to setting to character to time travel, the books were Stephen King showing the rest of us that other worlds with monsters and demons and crimson kings can, with the right touch and the right pen and the right people, feel more like home than any city we know. The Antagonist is me, David McNeil. We are produced by Digital and Creative Media Works. Head to patreon.com/DCMworks to support us. Let me know what you thought of the Dark Tower in the comments, and if you have any additional suggestions. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.